Hello and welcome to Middle East Matters on France 24. I'm Nadia Massi. Here's what's coming up this week in the show. We look at the ripple effects of the war in Gaza, first in the occupied West Bank, where long simmering tensions have burst out into the open, and in the Red Sea, where Yemeni rebels are stepping up their attacks against ships in protest at Israel's actions. We'll ask, might that lead to a wider conflict? We'll also look at efforts to honour Iranian women fighting for their freedom after Narges Mohammadi and Mahsa Amini are awarded top prizes. It's been more than 2 months since the devastating Hamas attacks of October the 7th, and so more than 2 months of brutal war in Gaza. Palestinians trapped in the enclave, the vast majority of whom have already been displaced, say simply they have nowhere safe to go. And the violence in Gaza is being powerfully felt in the other Palestinian territory, the occupied West Bank. Attacks by the Israeli army and settlers have soared, and the Israeli government has terminated work permits for Palestinians, leaving many struggling to survive financially. Our first report takes us to Hebron, long a flashpoint city where Israelis and Palestinians live cheek by jowl.
These two young Palestinians have just been arrested by the Israeli army in Hebron's historic center. We film as the soldiers cuff the young men to a pole in front of their base, but they then force us to delete the footage. This shopkeeper witnesses this scene repeating more and more often since the beginning of the war.
Since October the 7th, there's no law. Before, they used to force us to close the shops, insult us, humiliate us, arrest us, but we could at least talk to them. Now they treat us aggressively, they're violent, they terrorize us.
The old city of Hebron is cut in two, vertically. 800 Jewish settlers occupy the top of the ancient Arab market, protected by barbed wire, watchtowers, and the Israeli army. Underneath, the Palestinian shopkeepers have hanged wire mesh to protect themselves from the garbage the settlers hurl at them from their windows above. Ahmad is 20. He lives here. As a young Palestinian man, he is a prime target for Israeli patrols.
They arrest us every day. They attack us, sometimes 3 times a day. Yesterday, they searched me and my friend in the night, and they left us for at least an hour in the rain. It's our home here. They attack us and beat us up. We try to avoid them. We hide when we see them so that we don't get hit.
Customers are afraid and avoid the area. Most shops are closed. The root of years of violence lies at the far side of the market, heavily guarded by Israeli forces. It's the Patriarch's Cave, the tomb of Abraham, a holy site for Muslims, Jews, and Christians that has been a battleground for centuries. Today the shrine has been divided. This side is a mosque, the other a synagogue. Emboldened by the war and the unwavering support of their far-right government, Jewish settlers now expose their ambitions bluntly.
They're all terrorists. Even the Arabs that appear the most harmless are terrorists. So if we don't stop them, what happened in the south can also happen here, or anywhere else in the country. We must get rid of them all.
Mid-October, Israel's far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, himself a settler in Hebron, ordered the distribution of thousands of assault rifles to Jewish volunteers. Issa has witnessed the rise of settler violence firsthand. He is an activist with Friends of Hebron, a local Palestinian rights group. He gave us this video filmed a week after the beginning of the war. A group of settlers dressed up as soldiers are patrolling the street to force people into their homes. Issa was arrested and detained right after the Hamas attacks.
10 hours handcuffed, blindfolded, and even gagged. by the soldiers and settlers in an army uniform in October 7. They kept beating me, torturing me, sexually assaulting me for 10 hours continuously. I'm a human rights defender. I'm well known to them.
He considers Israeli soldiers and settlers are using the war to push their agenda.
It's not to maintain any kind of security. It's about political behavior to make it easier to annex West Bank to Israel in the future. This is what they're creating facts during the war. They are using the opportunity of war to really misbehave with the Palestinians, to scare them.
After our interview, Issa rushes off to this checkpoint. To reach his home, he needs to cross it before the Israeli soldiers lock his neighborhood down for the night.
That report by my colleagues Julie Dungelhoff and James Andre. Next, to another ripple effect of the Gaza war, this time in the Red Sea. Houthi rebels in Yemen are stepping up their attacks on vessels in the vital shipping lane, saying it's in protest at Israel's actions in Gaza, even though many of the ships in question are not Israeli-owned. Joining me now to discuss is Abdul Ghani Al-iryani. He's a senior researcher at the Sana Center for Strategic Studies. Good to talk to you on the programme, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, what do you think the Houthis are trying to achieve with these attacks?
Well, clearly, they are trying to disrupt the flow of commerce and make the cost of war more expensive to the rest of the world. But I think they have overplayed their hand in a big way. They will not go unpunished.
What do you mean by that? Do you think there will be an Israeli response?
I hope not. I don't think the Israelis have to. Yemen is, there are no targets in Yemen. And if the Houthis would love to see the Israelis attack them, that gives them more credibility as nationalists and patriots and supporters of Palestine. It's actually good for them to be attacked by Israel. But there are many other ways to punish them.
We'll come perhaps then to how this is being played out in Yemen in a moment. But one thing that is well known about the Houthis is that Iran is a big backer of the group. Indeed, the Houthis are often called an Iranian proxy. So are these attacks that we're looking at now being coordinated by Tehran? How would you characterize Iran's role?
The Houthis, of course, are very strong in support of the Palestinians. That's taken into consideration. But they can't possibly conduct the operations they are conducting without direct support from Iran. They do not have the intelligence capabilities nor the satellite capabilities to track and target those vessels. Iranians are definitely directing these strikes.
So do you think that Iran is trying to provoke a wider conflict amid the war in Gaza?
No, I don't think they want to do that. The Iranians are in a dilemma. They have been talking about liberating Palestine and supporting Palestinians, and now there's this horrible genocide in Gaza, and they do nothing. That's impossible. And they have two choices, either to use Hezbollah or to use the Houthis. They know that either armed group that gets involved in the fighting will be destroyed. Hezbollah is too valuable for them. It's the first line of defense of Iran itself, not of Gaza. So they're using the Houthis because they're expendable.
Okay, and I'm interested then in what Yemenis are making of these attacks then. You say the Houthis are expendable. Do they have broad support for what they're doing inside of Yemen?
Yes, they do have broad support. Yemenis are very passionate about Palestine, and what they're seeing is shaking them to the core. And even the enemies of the Houthis, who have been fighting the Houthis, military men who've been fighting the Houthis for 8 years, are now cheering for the Houthis.
There are risks, surely, aren't there, for the Houthis, not least that this could undermine the fragile ceasefire inside Yemen itself between the Houthis and the Saudi-led coalition?
I don't think it will end the ceasefire because the other side does not have the military capabilities to fight the Houthis. We know that the Saudis have been considering uh, uh, changing their horses and allying themselves with the Houthis rather than the weak and corrupt internationally recognized government. Now the Saudis, I think, will realize that Houthis are not proper ally because whenever there is a conflict that involves Palestine or involves Iran, they will come out and start fighting and disrupting the free flow of commerce in the Bab al-Mandab and the Red Sea.
Abdul Ghani Al-iryani, it's good to talk to you. Thanks very much. In other news, the European Parliament has honoured Mahsa Amini with its top human rights award more than a year after the Iranian woman died in police custody, sparking the Woman Life Freedom movement. Days earlier, the jailed activist Narges Mohammadi was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. With details on both, here's France 24's Aurore Dupuis.
Banned from travelling to collect a prize in honour of their daughter. Mahsa Amini's family was supposed to go to the European Parliament to be presented with the Sakharov Prize, but Iranian authorities stopped them at the airport. Their lawyer made it to Strasbourg instead. He read a message from Amini's mother, referring to another symbol of freedom, Joan of Arc.
How beautiful and meaningful that these two daughters of history are linked throughout the centuries. Their deaths have crossed borders and rekindled aspirations for emancipation and freedom.
Mahsa Amini died at the age of 22 on the 16th of December 2022, just 3 days after being arrested for allegedly not covering her hair properly, a crime in Iran. Her death led to months of protests against political and religious leaders in Iran. Hundreds died and thousands were arrested. Amini has become a symbol of women's fight against the obligation to wear the hijab. Her courage and that of other women resonates in Europe. 2 days earlier, another Iranian, Narges Mohammadi, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. She's been in jail since 2021. Her 17-year-old twins represented her in Oslo with a Kurdish slogan, a universal call to fight for women's rights.
Woman, life, freedom. Zan, zendegi, azadi.
And that's a wrap for the programme this week. Thank you for watching and do stay tuned to France 24.